Welcome to Learning by Doing. This is a podcast about the process, about exploring people, exploring the development professionally, creatively, and personally. Each week, my co-host and I bring people on and talk about how they got to where they are, how they fail, and what they're going to do to keep going. I'm Charles, my co-host George, and this week we're joined by an NCAA player, Canadian that pierced through America and made his way through, played at two different colleges there, two Division I teams, started at 9 games last year with the Golden Gophers, number 25, Ben St-Juste. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Ben, I know you, and we played football for, as we said before this conversation, for 6 years. We're known sort of since 2006 or 2007, and we split path when we went to Cégep. You went to CVM or Collège de Montréal here in Montreal, and from there you started doing a lot of camp runs. First camp run you did wasn't even here in Quebec. You tried out for Team Quebec and got cut from that team. And then if you look at the rest of the path, I don't understand how you got cut from there, but we'll move along. You then went into the U.S. You started, your first camp was in Albany, New York, and I don't remember what camp it was. Was it the Nike camp? Because I remember you did that one.
It was called the NUke Camp, National Underclassmen. National Underclassmen Camp.
All right, and you went through that camp and balled and played like a maniac and ended up getting MVP in your first camp. As a Canadian walking into a new field, how is that? How is getting into a new type of play, right? Because you've played cornerback for a very long time on a Canadian field. It's a really wide field, so now you're getting into more of the high speed and a lot of passing. So how's that switch?
As crazy as it sounds, I went out there just to like test my talent, just to see. We always, like, growing up as kids, we always hear about how the Americans have, so much talent. They have so many athletes, all that stuff. So I did not go in there with the intention of like getting any scholarship or getting any awards or anything. I was like strictly just going out there for fun, just to see how I compare my talents to the Americans and all that stuff. And it turns out that I had a great performance and ended up getting the MVP of the camp. So that just like boosted my confidence and tell me like, hey, maybe I can do this. Maybe I'm pretty good. I can compete with those guys. So that was great.
Good. And so what kind of pushed you towards getting into camps in the U.S.? Because I mean, there's plenty up here in Canada, but it is the threshold over there. This U.S. is the point to kind of compare yourself with. Was it, I'll go at the top and try to fight for a position there, and then kind of find where myself is, or where I am standing there, or?
To be honest, my parents really pushed me, especially my mom. My mom knew that like I had talent, I had potential to make it to like the best level in the US. And I was still young. I was still playing ball just for fun and all that stuff. And I just wanted to make her happy. And I like was like, all right, like, let's just go for it. Let's just sign up for a camp. Let's just see how it goes and all that stuff. And after that, after doing all those camps and seeing my talent, I found my self confidence and that boosted it up. And after that, I wanted to compete and like be the best I can. But at the base and the foundation, all that was really my parents. That like, maybe you got cut from Team Quebec, but I'm pretty sure you got enough talent to go like to the US and compete with those guys.
All right. And how long was that camp run, right? Because you went Albany, and as I mentioned, you did Nike camp as well. You did a couple of those. How many camps did you go to?
Yeah. So 2015 was my first year of camp. So I did the National Underclassmen Camp. That's the first one. Then in June in the summer, went with one of my friends from CJEP too, named Jeremy Dominique, who went to a 3-day camp at the Michigan camp, summer camp. This is where I got my first offer. Then after that, we came back to Quebec. We're just working out. The next year is the year when I had the most camps. Was like my last year. My name was already had a little bit of buzz around it, so I did the Under Armour Rivals camps. I did the Nike the Opening camp in New Jersey. Then I got invited to the Nike finals in the Nike headquarters in Oregon. and then I received an invite for an All-American game by the U.S. Army. So yeah, that was
So
my biggest one
you're
in 2016.
building a hell of a buzz, like building a network, because you were coming from Canada, having knowing people here and having kind of a decent understanding of like networking here, but going to the US, it's a whole new network, it's a whole new setup. Did you get someone in on the other side to kind of help you and direct you, like, okay, these camps or these are the types of thing you're trying to get into?
No, what's crazy about it is that if I could do it again, I would like to have like some sort of role model like that, or someone, a friend, or I know anything. I really just went um, strictly improvising, strictly off my information. I just looked up the camps. I knew when I was younger, I always looked up on YouTube those Nike camps and rival camps. I always wanted to do them, but that was all information that I found on my own. So, I lived and learned. I did a lot of mistakes, on going to certain camps, or like maybe not doing certain drills or whatever, or like, when it comes to like talking to coaches or whatever, or talking to recruits, I didn't know most of that stuff. My first offer from Michigan, I didn't even know what it meant. I didn't even know what a full scholarship was. Or
Mm.
like I didn't even know that you could wait a year and a half until National Signing Day to get more offers. So I just went on and committed right there. But yeah, it was really a live and learn experience. I was just Canadian player who didn't really know about the recruiting process in the US. So that was me. That was my journey.
And would you say like what were there huge differences between, the experience you had trying to get, your football career up in Canada versus what you saw in the States? Like not only in terms of drills, but the way that the team interacts with each other. Like, would you say there's a real stark difference between the kind of football we see here and the kind of football we see in the States?
That's a question that I get a lot. My answer is always the same. Obviously, you look at the population between Canada and the United States, big
Yeah.
difference. They obviously have way more athletes when at every position than us. We obviously play. That's my personal opinion. We obviously play in Quebec the best football, like the best league, the best conference. We have the best athletes. It's just that we have very few compared to the United States. So
Hmm.
obviously there's always some guys that from Quebec that could go to the United States and compete and be at the same level, but it's just the transition from going from Canada, Quebec to the United States, that every rep, every practice, every camp, you'll see at least 10, 15 guys that can really ball compared to maybe, two or three, in Quebec at your football team or whatever.
And you were talking about how you got your first offer from Michigan after the camp, and right there you committed and you like set yourself in and decided that was the one, just because you didn't know what it meant, right? We don't have that equivalent. In the only experience you had was CJEP, where in CJEP they just kind of talk to you. For us, it's like there's no money involved, there's no like big spending or whatever. So when you got the first scholarship, it was really impressive for you, and I feel like that's kind of pushed you. But what was the talking with coaches and all that? How did that happen? How did Michigan approach you, and where did the deals were made, like in the middle there?
To be honest, it was a crazy experience. First of all, me not knowing anything, my parents not knowing anything about having a scholarship or anything. We strictly, like I said, my mentality was to go out there and compare myself to the others. See how I go, like how my talents are compared to the Americans. So I was just there to like learn, get better, compare myself. And after 3 days, Coach Harbaugh invited me in his office. He's like, "Hey, kid, like you've been doing great those 3 days, and you're really good. You're a lengthy corner. Like that's what we're looking for. Like I'm giving you this full scholarship. Like come play for us." And I was like, "Oh, like I didn't really click in at the moment, Gary. Like I had to wait a couple of days, and I was like, oh, like
Yeah.
that's this big scholarship from one of the most prestigious school in the nation, and." I don't know. After that, it just rolled from there. But I did like my intention was not to get a scholarship. So when it happened, it was like the best way possible because I just went out there, had fun for 3 days, was just balling out there, and then he recognized my talent and just gave me that offer on the third day.
And you decided to finish your time in CJEP. You did your full time in CVM, or in College de Montréal, and
Yep.
graduated with that last semester being, if I remember correctly, 7 or 8 classes.
Oh yeah. Seven. So I had 7 classes at CJEP. I was studying for the ACT to take that ACT, And that summer before, no, I was taking online classes, science, like advanced science and advanced math, because I did not had the chance to do that in high school, and I needed that to be NCAA eligible.
Yeah, because you got your checklist of transferring to the US is a whole different system, and you
Oh yeah.
have to pass, as you said, the ACT, and also there's a lot of things that need to be checked off of. When you got that list and you're like, okay, well, that semester is going to be a grind. What was that first reaction of like, we're gonna have to ball through this and make it work?
Yeah, I knew I was motivated. I was like, you know what, I got this opportunity. I have to take it. I can't blow it off. So I'll do whatever I can. My first year I remember was the roughest because that was 2015 summer. They gave me that checklist. They're like, this is what you need to do by next year to be like, to be ready instead like with the NCAA and meet the requirements. I had 7 classes. Most of them were early in the morning at 8. And, we live on the North Shore. I had to take the train at 6 in
Mm.
the morning, go downtown and all that. So do these classes at the same time in between, come back home, taking that, wake up, do my online classes for advanced math and advanced science. And then on the weekends, work on that ACT, all that stuff. And on top of that, practice and play games at a high
Yeah,
level,
exactly. Because
to
it
keep
was
my
it was a fall
scholarship.
semester, right? It was a fall semester, so you'd
Yep.
still have football coming through and trying to get that happening at the same time.
Yep. So my schedule was full. I was strictly working on school stuff. It was probably the roughest semester I had. The next semester in 2016, which was the winter spring semester, I told my coaches that since I had so much schoolwork, I had another 10 credits of school and another ACT and stuff to do. So I told them for spring ball, I don't know if I'm gonna be there. I need to work on those school stuff. If I can't get the requirements for school, I won't be able to go to college in the U.S. And they're like, we totally understand. I get that out the way, and then come back for training camp in August. So I got all that stuff out the way. Got my ACT, my scores were good. Got all my classes passed and all that stuff. So I came back in August for the training camp. And my mind was free after that because I only had like 2 or 3 classes to take, and I was all
Yeah.
good.
But you still
And
during that semester of playing football at the same time, you ended
Yeah.
up being named a 4 star prospect by ESPN and the number one player in the province, number 2 in Canada by ESPN. Like you were still balling, right? There's a lot happening, but everyone was on top level, so you were committed and it's working.
Oh yeah, I had to. I mean, people I had expectation for me and I had expectation for myself. I was given that golden opportunity, so I couldn't just blow it off with like school stuff and all that stuff. So I try to make it work and fix everything. So
mm, and like you said, you had the expectations. Your mom always believed in you that you would be able to go out there and ball out if you were given the opportunity. Do you feel like you also had the support systems to really help you push through this? Because you had all that school, you had practice, plus on top taking the ACTs and all that. Did you feel like you had the support systems around you to really help you kind of push through this grind that you were at this point?
oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. My parents and the people at CVM, which I had a coach. His name is Ronaldo St-Juste, D-line coach, played at Michigan in 2007 all the way to 2010.
Mm,
So he was able to, we were able to chat and talk about experience and all that stuff. Steve Alexandre, which is the if off like the compliance guy for athletic department at CVM, also was a big guy, in translating my transcripts in English and all that stuff. So if I didn't have that support system, I probably would have made it, but it would have been so much harder. So that's why, like, when I talk with kids and they ask me advice and all that stuff, so I'm saying, make sure your parents, like, support you. Make sure they give you at
mm,
least a chance. Make sure you reach out to all the guys like me, all the guys that, made it. They can give you advice. They can they can tell you what to do so that you don't commit the same mistake that we did. That support system will really help you have the easy path. Not even the easy path, but just have a straight, smooth path without too many mistakes. And I really like appreciate all the people that were in my process.
And so after that, after your last year, you ended up making official visits. You made an official visit to Michigan. Now that you had committed already, but being that you graduated and you're about to actually commit and get in,
Hmm.
went to Michigan and then went to Virginia Tech, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
How are those visits? Because it's always the big talk of you get to see the locker rooms and everything. It's to a Canadian, it's a size difference that makes no sense, and it's really really impressive. So let's start with Michigan first.
Well, obviously, our official visit there. I mean, football here in the United States is a culture, is a religion. So they'll put, financially, they'll put everything they have and resources to give you the best package deal and everything you want to have as a recruit. So it starts from them sending a car service to your house. They come pick you up in a nice Escalade, bring you to the airport, fly with all your parents. You get there, you got the hotel room, nice hotel room. You got the car service, chauffeur, valet, and all that stuff, bringing you food, all service and all that stuff, fully included. They show you the locker room. The locker room is so big. There's two locker rooms. We had a locker room only for freshman guys, and we had a locker room for upperclassmen, which is huge.
Damn.
TVs and all that stuff. Indoor field is huge. Outdoor field, playroom. And then so they give you all that tour. They show you how it is. The coaches are there. Obviously it's their job, to give you a good experience. So you want to come there. And then after that, you go to the game, which is the biggest stadium in North America, 110,000 people, packed every weekend. It's always packed. Like my freshman year, sophomore year when I played there, everyone was always there. So that was great. I mean, official visit is probably the best thing that you can have, best memories that you can have as a student athlete, as a football player.
And you went to Virginia Tech as well, just as a comparison, just to get an idea of what else is happening out there, even though you're already committed to Michigan and all that.
Yeah. Very similar in terms of obviously, the school is a little bit less prestigious. Michigan's there, got more history and all that stuff, but Virginia Tech is still a big school, big stadium, all that same exclusive stuff and offers that they give to players. The reason why I picked Michigan is that I took for a younger guy, I had talk with I've decided to when I took my decision, I decided to rely on older guys, guys that have been through stuff in life. I reached out to Coach Gauvin, Alain, Coach Eric Poirier. I reached out to my dad, guys that been through the stuff, that been taking big decisions, been taking like, business decision things that impact their family in the future. And they told me, you know, I could have went to Virginia Tech, played 3 years, and went to the league, first round, because they put a lot of defensive back in the league, and I had talent for that. But I was like, you know what? If the football can work and the educational part can work also, Michigan can give me one of the best degrees and alumni network in the world. So I'll go there.
Mm.
If football doesn't work out, at least I have one of the best degrees from the number one public school in America. So this is what I ended up doing, and I don't regret it at all. That was one of the best decisions I ever made.
Yeah, because all the coaches that you name drop gave that same thing to everybody. You're a student first, right? Student athlete, you're a student first. And Alain,
Exactly.
Eric, and your dad as well, all have this understanding that football is great and you can make it through. And if you do, it's great. But if you have that that reliability of a good degree on the back of it, then it's even better. And so yeah,
Yep.
it's 100% made that work. And so you came in freshman year in Michigan, and played a lot on special teams. Played 12 games on special teams and won as actually cornerback. How was that first
Yep.
experience? Getting to a very, very faster playing field and faster level of play, because CJEP is already like good, and university here is still lower than university in US, so it's a very big gap. How does that change?
To be honest, I would say one key word would be consistency. Like I said, every
Mm.
practice, every game, you will go against someone that's as good as you or better than you. So you have to be on your A game every rep. You can't slack off. You can't take a break off. So that was demanding my first year. I played a lot. They was expecting a lot of me for the next year. So they were prepping me my freshman year. So then my sophomore year, I can take on a bigger role and play. So I played on all special teams. I played a couple games at corner. And then that was just for the football part. For the experience part, I think is one of the best that I ever had, like football wise. Coming in a packed stadium, 110,000. I went from playing in front of 100 people at CJEP, and then playing the next year in front of 110,000 people. You
Yeah.
know, biggest stadium. It was amazing. I had a lot of fun, made a lot of memories with my friend. Ended up, traveling my freshman year, traveling abroad. That was our first year that Coach Harbaugh brought us for the spring practice in Rome and Italy. We had a trip there for a week, which was crazy. Didn't even know about that. Playing in the biggest rivalry in history, Ohio State versus Michigan. So
Yeah.
freshman year was a great learning experience, a great field of memories and all that stuff. But yeah, in terms of how to adapt, really consistency. I had to be on my A game all the time. I couldn't slack off if I really wanted to play my sophomore year and the years after that.
And you came in with that like the grind from school already and followed through because you ended up getting a varsity letter, and that to a Canadian that doesn't mean much. Can you explain a little bit what varsity letter means?
Yeah. So varsity letter, like, so first of all, to have the varsity letter, you have to play it in a game. You have to be in a game. You have to be like you can't like be a red shirt, so you have to be on the travel squad and travel with the team and all that stuff, which is what I did. And you have to have a certain requirement of GPA to have that in terms of class. You have to have a full load of classes and pass all of them with at least a 3.0. So having that was really a big accomplishment for me as a freshman, with all that stuff that I had on to fulfill all the requirements. I was able to, have that varsity letter after 1 year, which is yeah, pretty big deal.
Yeah. And so you ended up redshirting your second season. Hamstring
Yep.
injury in camp kept you out, so you elected to medically retire for the season, concentrate on a lot of stuff, and that ended up also being your graduating year, correct?
Yep.
Um,
Graduate just one semester after that in 2019,
okay,
winter
okay.
spring semester of 2019.
And you were graduating in what field? What did you end up studying?
General studies, bachelor's of arts.
Okay. And so after that, how was that season? Being on the sideline, being a little bit kind of removed. How different was that as a pace?
To be honest, was one of the hardest year of my life. First year that I just did not play football. I just seen all my teammates, compete, playing, traveling. I was not there. Um, and for a small injury like that, to like a hamstring injury, didn't even tore or anything. It was just not treated well. It was not rehab well. I did not have the resources to get it better, and to be honest, it was real hard. It was real close to depression, to be honest, because as football players,
Mm.
football is their life.
Yeah, it
But
fuels you.
yep, but it opened it made me wiser. It made me realize that football should not define who I am. It should not be part of my identity, because even if it was like 2 years ago or like in 5 years when I'm done, you can't be a football player all your life. You can't just be like, my name is Shao, I'm a football player. No, you're someone
Yeah.
else, you do a podcast, you do this, you're a student, you do this like me, like, I have friends, I have other organization that I work for. I love other things. I can't just be a football player. And that's what hurt a lot because, when football are done, a lot of those guys built their identity around football. So then when football is gone, they're nobody. So that year that I took off and I wasn't playing football just made me realize that like I know I can't put all my eggs in one basket. So it made me work on other things off the field and all that stuff. So when I came back, of course I had the same love for football and I love playing all that stuff. But I didn't put all my energy on and build my personality and identity around that just that football life. I was more than just
Mhm.
that.
Do you feel like taking that year and really kind of, redefining who you are to yourself and all that, coming back to football afterwards, do you think it really kind of gave you, as someone who has now like a fuller perspective of who you are, just like allowed you to really blow off on the field the following year because you know that, you can put your soul and heart into this while not taking away from who you are?
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Like you perfectly said it. I had no pressure. Football was not
Mm,
taking over me or over my identity or personality. I was playing because I love football because I was given the opportunity, and football opened so many doors for me in life in terms of degree, friends, networking,
mm,
business opportunities, all that stuff. So I was just like, you know what, that's just a blessing to be out there playing. I'm not gonna put any pressure on my shoulder. I'm just gonna go out there and have fun, and cherish those moments while they're there because they'll be gone at some point.
And did that
mm,
kind of fuel your decision to, after that year off, look for somewhere else to go, right? Because you wanted to get into a different degree or a higher degree,
Yeah,
uh, which is sports management, if I'm correct.
yeah, sports management.
And so, being that you kind of reflected on yourself, you realized, okay, I need to concentrate on getting to know what I want to do on top of football. Is that when you started looking for, is Michigan my endpoint, or is Michigan going to be the step into this bigger like ladder, let's say?
Yeah, definitely at first I thought Michigan was going to be the end point because I was still in that same mentality of football. I was like, man, I medically retired because of this. Like, and what's crazy about it, I'm gonna give you a little insight on it. That wasn't even my decision. I was forced into that.
Mm.
You know, like you probably know football, especially here in college football, like in the United States, a business, you know, so we don't have that much say or that much power. So coaches and administration take sometimes decision for us. So after that, I was like, you know what, I can't stay here. This is like not a good environment for me. I need a better environment. I need a master's degree. I need another year of playing football. So I just used that to be like, to just push myself forward. And I went in the transfer portal and visited Minnesota with my dad. And Minnesota is very similar to Michigan, you know, saying in the Big Ten, big school, a lot of history and all that stuff. And Coach Fleck here ended up being a great guy, you know, young, energetic, honest, and players coach, big player coach relationship.
Yeah.
And so I really love that, and I just went into it, and then it's been good ever since, you know.
Because the way it's been said is you got DM'd by the DC of Minnesota as soon as you got in transfer portal, and it is like, okay,
Yeah.
we need to get you here. You are gonna love this school, and you're gonna sign here. Like, don't even worry. As soon as you step in, you're gonna love it. Is that really the experience that happened? Was it just like and this is the next step?
Yeah, he was right. He was right about I was in a state of mind that I just wanted a school to prove that I can still play. It could have been anything, and it could have been any school. It ended up being Minnesota, and it was a great choice. But I just wanted to pick a school and say, you know what, like people forgot about me. They think I can't play no more. They think I'm mentally retired and all that stuff. I just want to go to school and just ball, get my master's degree and all that stuff. And it ended up that everything that they said about this school that were gonna happen is true. You know, it's been very positive and very like very great here ever since I stepped foot on campus.
Is there any other team that showed interest, or was it just you kind of did you have a short list made of this is kind of what interests me, and we'll try to make it
Yeah,
work and try to contact teams, or was it just getting contacted?
yeah. I had I didn't have a list of team. Just wanted to play for one, and Minnesota ended up being the best fit. I had if I can remember when I was in the transfer portal, I had the University of Houston. I have University of Massachusetts, Minnesota, SMU. I had Miami. I had what other school? Washington, USC. USC came in right after. If I can give you a little insight, I would have been great to USC. You know, being in Southern Cal, you know, beach, sunny, and all that stuff after. But that was they offered me something after I committed to Minnesota, so I was just fine with my decision to go to Minnesota.
All right. And you mentioned PJ Fleck, and he has an insane, like a awesome mentality. I love his row the boat mentality, and I'll have it linked in the description down below. Him explaining row the boat because it's a really
Yeah,
really interesting way of thinking, and Sky Yuma and everything.
yeah.
I feel like that was a definite hook into Minnesota. So, how was your first interaction with PJ Fleck?
First interaction I had with him, he told me like blatantly, he's like, "Hey, I need corners. I like you. I like what you did. I wouldn't be sitting with you right here and your dad in this office if I didn't need you. You will play this season, like straight like that." And I was like, "All right, like, are you serious about that?" I say, I'm telling you, I wouldn't be wasting no official visits or my time if I didn't want you to play this season like you will play. And I ended up playing. That's crazy. That's the crazy part about it, you know? That's very different from like Michigan and Minnesota is that a lot of those coaches, what they say and how they say it, a lot of times it happens and it's like that, you know, it's always honest. So you don't have to, you know, like maybe double check or be maybe a little bit more skeptical. You know, sometimes a lot of coaches like to make promises. Hey, you go if you just keep working hard, you're gonna be a starter. Nah, here when they say when Coach Flex says that, it's actually gonna happen because he knows your potential. So I really like that was first interaction. And then after that, we just kept building a relationship. I'm more of a quiet guy. He's more energetic, but we started building that connection every week in the season. And he's the type of coach that you can just knock on his door and then you just go talk to him and we can do whatever, you know, big player coach relationship. Invite us to his lake house all the time. We do activities and all that stuff. So that was things that were new to me and I really liked it.
So yeah, it's really a family. And you said you played. You did more than played. You started 9 games and ended up
Yeah,
playing in 13 in total. In as a newcomer to a team, right? You're not a freshman anymore, but you're still a rookie coming in.
yeah.
How is that like getting into it as soon as it did and just going and starting really hard?
A crazy experience, man. Because like you said, I was not a freshman. I was a junior, but I didn't play as much as I played last year. So I came in, did my thing on special team. I always been a big special team guys, and they told me that hey, we really like you. You're gonna play a lot more. And then I start playing a lot more. Game one, game two, game three, game four. As soon as we started Big Ten games against Purdue, I was a starting corner. And it didn't really kick in until mid-season where I was like, oh, like I'm really doing good. Like I'm getting like a lot of tackles. I'm getting PBUs. I'm getting PFF, team of the week players and all that stuff. So I was like, oh, like I must be doing something good. So it was really good. And actually, we had, team success was really one of the things that made this season incredible. Because I could have had individual success and be like proud, but like the fact that we were winning and we ended up having the most wins since like 100 years and winning a bowl game made the season even better. Like,
Yeah, so you ended up being all Big Ten honorable mention, but as you said, for the team, this was the best season for the Gophers in the past 50 years. It was a 9-0
yeah,
start, 9 wins, zero losses at the start, and you ended up winning the Outback Bowl against Auburn.
yeah.
A highlight year in any category for sure. So how is that now that you're out of it, kind of looking back at it and realizing all the stuff that happened? How much bigger it is than just this season for the Gophers in itself. For the Gophers, it's a record breaking season in a lot of senses.
It's a step on the pedestal, to be honest, a step forward. Now there's no more 7-5. There's no more 8-5 season. There's no more mediocre
Mm,
season. It's gonna be 11 wins or more. So for the Gophers, so it's really a switch in the whole program because now all the eyes are on us. More recruits come to play for us, more highly recruited. They're like, hey, they can do things. Um, so now, like, I think it's gonna be a big shift in the program because now we're gonna like just look forward to like having more 11 wins every year and winning our bowl games and going to the Big Ten championship and Rose Bowl. Like crazy part about it was we was 4 points shy of going to the Rose Bowl against the Iowa game
Yeah.
last year. We just needed to win that one game. We was going to the Rose Bowl, so that's how close we were to like accomplishing even bigger things.
So the momentum you guys gained from this kind of highlight season is really going to be able to help you guys cement kind of like a winning movement and team moving forward with the Gophers.
Yep, no doubt, no doubt. It was a going from 7-5 like a couple wins here and there to 11-2, like most wins in like 100 years is a big shift. So obviously, like there's no turning back to that. We have to like move forward and keep building on that momentum, like you said.
And it's part of the things you're mentioning of football. There's a lot of politics, right? It is as much as
Yeah,
coaches have politics or whatever, but this is part of it. Of if you gain momentum as a team, it helps with everything surrounding the team as you recruitment, but also just the amount of money that is allowed to the club or the team and everything around it is helped by as soon as you gain a little bit of that momentum, it will carry you forward for a long time.
yep, no doubt.
And so now we're moving up into the 2020 season that is still undetermined. I don't know. I haven't seen really a word on what is supposed to happen from the NCAA. I don't know if you have information on what the type of play is. But yeah, what are the plans currently for the season?
We're currently right now in phase one of coming back. We've been here for 3 weeks doing voluntary workouts. Mask have to be worn in the facility and all that stuff. Small groups been working out every day. We have no word yet on when or who and how we're gonna play this season. We should next week we should have a phase two to see how it works. Some teams in the Big Ten conference been doing well with cases and stuff like that, but some of the teams down south been having it pretty rough, in terms of like Clemson, LSU, Alabama, and all the other teams, that have way more cases than us.
Yeah.
So that's the tricky part about it. You would say that maybe because we're steady and had like lowering our cases right now, with the Big Ten, which is more opponent teams that we could play. But I don't think the NCAA is going to let just one conference play. Like the
Yeah.
SEC will have. We'll be like, hey, why we can't play and all that stuff. So I have no idea how it's going to work. I hope something, like I hope they come up with a good plan, but we'll know by next week a little bit more information on how that will go.
All right. And what, like, if are they gonna have plans to push kind of another season of eligibility? Because some players are supposed to be ending this year. You're lucky enough to have another year of eligibility. You're going to be able to play 2020, 21. But some players are supposed to end. Is there anything that you've heard or that you've on the inside been able to see of maybe they're going to be pushing? Is this counting as a redshirting year? Is this?
Yeah, one of the things that a lot of people have been talking about is that spring winter season. So if that happens, that we'll be playing the spring season, but there's a lot of question marks around that. All the seniors that come back, where how we're gonna give them a scholarship, how's that gonna affect the next class of recruits, that come in at the same time. We're gonna
Mhm.
have like 200 players now instead of like 120. So to be honest, there's a lot of question marks on it. Like you said, I'm lucky that I have an extra year. I don't know how it's gonna work for guys that are ending right now. So those are all questions that will need to be answered in the next few months.
And
Mm.
if we consider and just count on you for that, of how do you feel being that you did lose a season of tape, a season of getting to prove yourself to move up to a higher level? How does that feel personally?
Um, well, I'm lucky I have the season, but I wish I could have played this season, played this year because it could have been my last year, and I could have declared next year. I could have declared for the NFL next year. Um, I wish that could have been the plan. I hope it's still the plan because staying another year, that means you have to enroll in another program, and there's more
Yeah.
risk maybe for injuries, all that stuff. So maybe a lot of guys, are not happy or disappointed by that by staying an extra year when they could have left this year. So.
Mhm. And what kind of like changes to your process did you have to incorporate once COVID kind of hit, right? Like you said, team workouts were put on hold. And obviously with everything shutting down, what kind of things have you been doing to kind of secure, a successful oncoming season once things do open up?
Been working on. This was really my first full like off season of work
Mm.
that I could work on all my weaknesses. I've been getting stronger. I've been getting healthier this year. Was able to work with a lot of different trainers and a lot of different of other guys, athletes from different school. Been working on my weaknesses. Obviously um I've seen the scouting reports from the NFL and all that stuff, so I know some of the things that they want me to work on. So that's what I've been working on. So that's great. That's been great. I had a lot of time to work on my craft, work on those things to
Mm.
boost my draft stock up for next year.
Yeah, and
Right. Nice,
speaking
nice.
of the prospect work, I mean, are you looking to certain teams already, or you're just going to be like, I'm going to be working on whatever the requirement is, and then figure out where I'm going? Because you have a pretty good shot. Let's not lie. You have a very good shot of making it. So now it's going to be figuring out when, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I don't have any requirements. I don't have any specific things. I'm really just working on my personal growth and trying to maximize as much as I can to like boost my abilities and boost my draft stock up. The more the higher I get drafted, the high the bigger my check's gonna be. So that's why I've been working on.
And have you been in contact with any agent? Because that's a different world, right? Getting to work
Yeah,
with agents, getting to work with, kind of really pulling in that politics side that we're talking about, and getting to see some people trying to sell themselves, but sometimes it falls short and whatever. It is a very very different game than football was. And so how's getting to work with agents?
yeah, it's been it's still new to me. I'm gonna start very soon to start to like take calls and have meetings and all Zoom meetings and all that stuff like with agents and all that. I don't really know how that business works and all that stuff, so I definitely have to do my research. But there's been plenty of guys, during the season that hit me up, but I don't really want to pay too much attention during the season. I want to focus on my things. Right now,
Mm.
they've been hitting me back up again. Trying to talk, trying to get meetings, trying to introduce themselves and see how they can help me get drafted. You know, as high as I can. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. It's no more fun now. It's a lot more about business. It's a
Yeah.
big business. It's gonna be it. Once you in the NFL, once you get that agent, all that stuff, it's a job. So you need to look at it a different way. So that's what I've been shifting my mind to. lately.
And have you been in contact with certain recruiters? Like, is there a direct line, or is agents the way to go? You kind of just have to follow the
They
flow.
j- they just reach out to you on social media. They either have your phone, they reach out to you on Instagram, they reach out to you on Twitter and all that stuff, and then be like, hey, you want to hop on a call? Let me introduce myself. Let me send you a packet or whatever to read over, and this is what we are. This is what we have to offer, and that's why you would fit well. That's usually what they do. Yeah.
All right, all right.
Mm.
And you're kind of you're getting there. Like we're talking now. And what are your future plans? If you're looking just ahead in general, be it football or personally, you're getting that sports management degree. That's getting closed up this year.
Mhm.
You're kind of closing in on the end point of your university career. So what's your looking ahead now?
Well, obviously, playing pros is a plan. I'll try to play pros as long as I can. Trying to do what I love for as long as I can. Once all of this is done, I'll be using those 2 degrees that I have to find me a nice job, maybe in a sports marketing world. I'll try to. I really wanted to work for a professional team in their marketing team, or work for a company here, like Xfinity or Comcast,
Mm.
ESPN or something like that in their marketing department. Which is something that my girlfriend actually do also because she runs track. She has a sports management degree. She was able to land a job at Comcast to work in the marketing team in the Olympics for track. So this is something similar that I'll be trying to do after life after football.
And you became a voice here. You've been out in the United States for the past 3 years or 3 4 years,
Yeah. Hmm.
and a lot's been happening in the last few months. The major event was the death of George Floyd, and you mentioned in an article you wrote on Radio Canada, which is a French news system here, that you live like 3 blocks away from there. How
Yeah. Yeah. It's
how hard were you impacted by what's happening around you? Just about the George Floyd, and even more after.
I mean, obviously, like you said, I've been here for like 3 years, so I've experienced it. I've seen it. I've heard about it. I've heard my teammates talk about all that stuff. So it was nothing new. The only thing that changed is that it's so close to you. It was so close on campus that it becomes personal, That could have been like, that could have been me, that could have been my teammate, that could have been my coach, that could have been my friend, that could have been like anyone that I know that happened to like die on that day from that incident. So if you take it a little bit more personal, you tend to like, jump on actions a little faster. You want to change that. You want to fight for justice and all that stuff. That's what we've been doing here with the team, with Coach Fleck and University, trying to find ways to, change that narrative, change that way of living, because like we can't have those things happen like anywhere, especially on campus or
Yeah, and
close to our
you've
campus.
been very active yourself, even here back home in Montreal. You appeared on TVA, which is a French news network. You've been a guest writing for, as I said, Radio Canada. You've been just getting involved a lot, even back here. How how much of the you moving to the US made you even more aware of what was happening even here? Right now that you have that comparison, what kind did you pull out of that experience?
Uh, to be honest, it's just in your face, it's just there. If I could compare the two experiences that I had, like growing up, like in Montreal, Canada, and here, is that obviously that systematic racism and institutional racism exists. It's the way that it's brought up every day and so repetitively. Like every day,
Mm.
there's something new that happened. You'll see on Twitter every day. You hear someone say that this happened, and the abuse of power used by certain form, like the government. It could be the government, the police, the educational system, or anything. Is so blatantly like in your face and happening every day that sometimes those communities, those people had enough, and it turns out like the riots and the protests and all that stuff, like people had enough because it happens too often. So those are things that could happen anywhere. It could happen in Canada. It's just that the amount of times maybe that happens a little bit more spread out. It doesn't happen, like, obviously we're less people, but if it starts to happen more on a repetitive basis and more blatantly and flagrantly, like obviously at some point a community or society will had enough and they'll say, hey, we need to change those things. And this is what happened here because it happened way too often.
And you've had three different kind of experiences, right? Living out here in the North Shore, and living or working or and being studying in Montreal. Those
Mhm.
are already very different on that level, right? There's a
Yeah,
lot less people here in the North Shore. There's a lot less interference happening in general. And then in Montreal, there's more. And then when you went to US, it was just uh, a great ton higher. So it kind of, I
yeah.
feel like, showed you the. Did you become aware of things that were happening here now that you've been exposed to it more out there?
Like I said earlier, I always been aware. When I was back home of things. It's really the amount of times that it happened and the severity of the events, that change.
Yeah,
Uh, I never had an encounter where there was an abuse of power or violence. That's just my personal experience from like Canada and Montreal compared to like here, like in the US where you got, like you're scared for your life when you get arrested, you're scared for your life when you go to a certain place and all that stuff. This is the degree where it changes severity and the abuse of power and related to that systematic like racism in society here. That's very different. So those are the two big
Mm.
differences that I noticed.
yeah, and you've been
Right.
getting a lot more involved, a lot more present. Is it,
Yeah.
as you said, the team is doing it as well, the school is doing it as well? You've been doing it on your own. Is was all mashing to, or meshing together of being pushed by your team or not helped by your team to, if you believe in something, go for it type of thing, or
I always been a guy, stand up guy, that will stand for what's right. I always been educated on all those things. I didn't want to come in country, especially like I've been educated back home. I never want to come in uneducated on the racial discrimination, racial injustice in this country from people of color and all that stuff. But the switch that happened with that moment where it sparked everything is that I realized that I have a big platform as a student athlete because here sports is a religious thing. It's huge. People like people love sports more than certain things that like certain than more than education or religious things sometimes here. That's how big it is. So I'm like, how so I have this platform as a student athlete that's huge, and I play in front of the thousands of people. I need to use that platform to stand up for what's right and stand up for those injustice and whatever it's not right in society because people look up to me. So I said it's my duty to use that platform to talk about it. The same way LeBron James or Michael Jordan or Colin Kaepernick use it, it would be a shame or it will be like hypocrite of me of not using it, educate people, especially people from back home, that doesn't live in the United States, don't know what happened. You have to let them know that it happens here, and it's very severe, and it needs to change. So that's why I said, you know what, I'll use my voice, I'll use my platform to educate people.
yeah, because being from a smaller town over here, I mean, even playing in Laurentian, when we were playing football together, there's just a lack of diversity in general, and so the lack of diversity also pushed the lack of opinionated like or a difference of opinions that were created there, and so being unaware of it or not being faced with it kind of makes those people just realize or think that it's not a problem. And I feel like you being
Yeah,
now out there and having that experience and bringing it back to people that you've known and that know you really help them to realize that it's not just it's the thing in the US or it's a thing over there. It's a thing everywhere, right? And so
yeah.
you, I really appreciate that you're taking that platform and you're using it to spread that awareness because you've known a lot of people over your time, and everyone can get something out of your experience and also get something out of your knowledge that you've gained through that time.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
And like just like the Charles said, I think a big thing for me throughout this whole BLM movement thing was that I can accept that I have been ignorant to the systematic racisms that we are aware to in the US and even in Canada to an extent. And I think because the BLM movement started even a couple of years ago, and then this whole George Floyd thing kind of reinvigorated that discussion. And I think what this has allowed a lot of people like myself is just to actually see firsthand and try and understand why all these things are happening, where all this is coming from. So I think one thing that people like and obviously not a person of color. I'm a white man. I think one thing that, you know, people in my kind of situation can do is start to speak up on it. You know, hold solidarity with people of color and say, like, you know, I don't feel or go through the same injustices you do, but I need to stand up for the injustices that you guys are facing, you know. So I think, and, you know, correct me if I'm correct, but I think that's the kind of stance that people in my position need to do to help out the Black and people of color communities.
Yeah, no doubt. I love like how this movement sparked a lot of things. Is gonna do either two things. One, it will expose the people that you thought will stand up and maybe, say something. They'll stay silent, so you know what their attention and what they think of whatever's going on. Or you have the opposite side, which is the more positive side, which will, give a wake up call and be like, maybe I need to educate myself. Maybe I didn't change those things. Maybe I had friends that I didn't stand up for. Maybe I had things in the past that I didn't stand up for. So it'll be a great change for the better of whatever is going on right now. Because a lot of people, realize that they could be like, major players and changes those racial injustice. So that's great.
And football's always been that. Football's always been when you're in a locker room, doesn't matter what race, creed, religion, nationality, whatever happened, you are in the locker room with your team, and your team is your family. You're not going to change that.
Yeah.
I had the experience of going to John Abbott and stepping out of my bubble. I was not on the John Abbott being on the West Island of Montreal. I wasn't in the North Shore. I wasn't secluded, quote unquote. And I really stepped in and realized, learned from a lot of people and talked with different people, and having those conversations taught me a lot personally and taught me a lot about what I was missing from other people as well. And it's getting those conversations that are really important. It's stepping out of your comfort zone and not just assuming that if you think you're correct, you are. And if you have a disagreement with someone, doesn't mean that you're both correct or both wrong. You just need to talk about it and realize why they have certain opinions. And so it's really just sparking that movement of having those conversations and making people aware that they're not sitting in an ivory tower here.
Yeah, I think football teams should be the greatest depiction of our society. We don't love everyone on a football team. We're not friends with everyone, but everyone respect each other regardless of like what color, what nationality, what religion you are. Everyone respect. That's all you need. You need just respect for other people. You don't have to love. You don't have to be friends with someone, but the respect goes a long way.
Yeah, because football creates that reliability on each other. If not, and we'll use the U.S. system for it, but if on 11 people, one of them doesn't do their job, the whole play falls, the whole team falls, right? The whole sideline is there. You mentioned that you're a team of 120 people plus coaches, plus there's a lot of people involved. But on a certain play, if one person doesn't do their thing, then the whole team is going to pay for it. And it's reflected in practice, it's reflected in games and everything. You do everything as a team, and you have to acknowledge that what you do will affect people around you, and what they do will affect you. And so you have to realize that this is a two-way street.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I want to close it off by saying thank you, everyone, for coming on. Right, this is a great conversation. Really happy we got that through. Is there anything you want to plug? I know you've been active on Twitter. You got the blue check mark. Everything, you're living life on that side. Is there anything you want to plug? Anything you want to get out there?
Not much, man. Just like great conversation. Every time I can talk, especially with an old friend that I play with, and podcasts from back home and all that stuff, and I can shed information, spread awareness on issues and all that stuff for my community back home in Montreal, Canada. I'll do it. So thank you for the opportunity to have me on that podcast.
Hey, it was a pleasure having you on. So
thanks.
Thank you so much.
Good luck with the 2020 season, and good luck with the future career.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Go wave that flag in the NFL. You got this.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Watch it. Goodbye. This concludes the episode. Thank you for listening. Both the intro and outro songs were songs of mine, and the link can be found in show notes, as well as a link to everything that was mentioned during this episode. We'll be back again next week.